Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good day everyone. My name is Muhammad Afiq Adham bin Arif Fadilah. My metric number 313612. Today we will be presenting an analysis of the current issue in petrol subsidy implementation in Malaysia, focusing on its effect on the cost of living and economic stability. Petrol subsidies have long been an important policy used by the Malaysian government to ensure that fuel price remain affordable for the public. Through programs such as non-notified subsidies, the government aims to reduce the financial burden on households, especially for lower and middle income groups. However, in recent years, this issue has become increasingly important due to rising global oil prices and higher government spending on subsidies. According to statements by Anwar Ibrahim, Prime Minister of Malaysia, subsidy costs have increased significantly, reaching billions of ringgit and putting pressure on the country's financial resource. At the same time, Malaysians are also facing a higher cost of living, where fuel prices directly affect transportation, food prices, and daily expenses. Therefore, it is important to examine the current issue of petrol subsidies, as well as their impacts on both society and their overall economy. In these presentations, we will discuss the current issues, the impact, both positive and negative, and finally propose possible solutions to improve the system.
Everyone, today we will talk about petrol subsidies current issue in Malaysia.
Petrol subsidies current issue in Malaysia bring both benefits and challenges to the country. One major issue is the financial burden on the government. Every year, the government needs to spend a huge amount of money to maintain petrol subsidies, especially when global oil price increase. This situation puts pressure on the country's economy and reduces allocation for important sectors such as education, healthcare, and public development.
Recent news highlights show the growing concern over petrol subsidies in Malaysia. The government is facing increased financial pressure as billions of ringgit are spent every year to maintain fuel subsidies. The government is now studying targeted subsidies measures to ensure assistance reaches those who truly need. However, any change to subsidies policies may also impact the cost of living and fuel prices for the public.
Kerajaan menanggung subsidi petrol dan diesel yang dianggarkan mencecah RM4 bilion sebulan di bawah program Budi Madani RON 95 dan Budi Diesel. Ia susulan peningkatan harga minyak mentah global yang menyumbang kepada kenaikan mendadak subsidi.
Another issue is the increase in the cost of living when subsidies are reduced or targeted. Higher fuel prices cause transportation costs to rise, which then increase the prices of goods and daily necessities. As a result, many people, especially low and middle income groups, face greater financial difficulties in managing their daily expenses. In addition, Malaysia's cheaper subsidized petrol compared to the neighboring countries has encouraged smuggling activities. Irresponsible parties smuggle subsidized petrol across borders to gain profits. This causes major loss to the government because the subsidies meant for Malaysians are being abused. In conclusion, although petrol subsidies help reduce people's finance burden, they also create economic challenges such as a high government spending, rising living costs, and petrol smuggling. Therefore, effective policies and strict enforcement are important to ensure that subsidies truly benefit the rakyat and support the country's economic stability.
My name is Lee Su-yi with number metric 311100. Next, we will discuss the impact of petrol subsidy issue in Malaysia, including both positive and negative effects. Firstly, the positive impact is that petrol subsidy helps reduce the cost of living. When fuel prices are kept low, transportation becomes cheaper, and this helps control the price of goods and services. This is important because fuel costs affect almost every sector, especially logistics and food supply. In addition, subsidy helps support household welfare. Research showed that when fuel price increase due to the subsidy reduction, households, especially middle and lower income group, experience a decrease in welfare because they spend a larger portion of their income on fuels and transportation. This means subsidy play a role in protecting people purchasing power and maintaining economic stability. However, there are also significant negative impacts. One major issue is the financial burden on the government. For example, reports show that Malaysia fuel subsidy spending can reach up to billions of ringgit per month, making it increasingly unsustainable in long term. This limits government spending on other important sectors like education and healthcare. Another negative impact is subsidy leakage and misuse. According to the enforcement data, millions of ringgit worth of subsidy fuels has been misappropriated, and large amounts are smuggled across the border due to the price difference. Facts, before subsidy reform, around 6.5 million liters of diesel was misused or smuggled daily, showing how serious this issue is. This means the subsidy does not fully benefit the intended target group. Furthermore, the subsidy system is considered inefficient because it benefits higher income group more. Studies show that fuel subsidy often lead to wealthier households, making the policy less effective in helping the poor. Lastly, subsidy reform can also lead to inflation. When subsidies are reduced, fuel prices increase significantly, which can raise the cost of goods and services and affect consumers.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Safia binti Mahadi and my matric number is 313640. So, what are the solutions to the petrol subsidy in Malaysia? First, the government should continue with targeted fuel subsidy. Recent news shows that Malaysia has already moved in this direction to the Budi 95 system, where the subsidized RON 95 price is capped at RM1.99 per litre for eligible Malaysians, while the subsidy is more controlled through monthly limits. This is a better solution because it ensures the subsidy goes to the people who really need it instead of being enjoyed by everyone equally, including higher income groups. It also helps reduce issues that have been worrying the government, such as waste, subsidy leakage, and smuggling. Second, the government should use gradual subsidy reform. According to the Start 2026, it talks about how fuel subsidy reforms can support fiscal consolidation, which it reduces pressure on the government budget. Instead of removing it suddenly, the government should reduce it step by step. For example, the Budi 95, at the first stage it was 300 litres per month, but in April 2026, it was reduced to 200 litres per month.
Oleh itu, kerajaan akan membuat penyelarasan kelayakan Budi 95 daripada 300 liter sebulan kepada 200 liter sebulan bermula 1 April 2026.
This is important because the fuel subsidy bill has become very large and gradual reform can help the government to save money, and at the same time, it avoids sudden shock to the public. It has been estimated to save 5 billion ringgit annually. The third solution is that the government should strengthen targeted aid such as Sumbangan Asas Rahmah, SARA, and Sumbangan Tunai Rahmah, STR. It is important because when the fuel subsidy is reduced, the low-income groups may still need support to cope with the living costs. As Goh Lim Tai of University Malaya observed, to ensure long-term sustainability, Malaysia must move away from untargeted, consumption-based subsidies toward a more needs-based, data-driven social support system. As the report says too,
Goh said reforming the subsidy system could help preserve public funds for key aid initiatives, including child nutrition, elderly care, and targeted cash assistance such as STR and SARA.
so the solution does not mean giving random cash to everyone. It means helping vulnerable groups through directly support programs, while the government reduces unnecessary spending on blanket fuel subsidies. In this way, the people who really need help will still receive assistance, but the system is becoming more efficient and fairer. In conclusion, petrol subsidy is important But the current system has several weaknesses such as high government spending, smuggling, and increasing cost of living. Therefore, the best solutions are targeted subsidies, gradual reforms, and straightened targeted aid. These measures can help protect the people while also improving the country's economic stability.
My name is Jackson Angwi Chen with my metric number 312385. Now I will carry out the conclusion part for this assignment. To sum up, petrol subsidy remains one of the most important economic policies in Malaysia because it directly affects the daily lives of the people and the country's economic stability. Throughout this presentation, we have discussed several key issues related to petrol subsidy implementation in Malaysia, including the increasing financial burden on the government, rising cost of living, and the problem of petrol smuggling due to price differences with neighboring countries. We also explained the positive and negative impacts of petrol subsidies. On the positive side, subsidies help reduce the cost of living, control transportation expenses, and protect household welfare. However, they also create challenges such as high government expenditure, subsidy leakage and smuggling, and inefficient subsidy distribution. To address these challenges, several solutions can be implemented to improve the subsidy system, including targeted fuel subsidy, gradual subsidy reform, and targeted aid, especially for low-income groups. These approaches can help ensure that government support reaches the people who truly need it, while reducing waste and strengthening the country's financial position. Ultimately, the issue of petrol subsidy is not only about the fuel price, but the government must find a balance between protecting social welfare and maintaining long-term economic stability. Thus, a more efficient and sustainable subsidy system is important to ensure a better future for Malaysia's economy and society.